Let's take group 2 now.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm Manisha Dudhedia.
Yes, hello, Professor
Please permit
Manisha.
me to,
Yes,
hello, sir. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir.
evening.
Please permit me to share my screen, sir.
Yes, yes, please do.
Sir, we will be talking about the sinusoidal input to the LSI system and the phase. Actually, we are going to discuss it in this way. The flow of
Very
discussion will be understanding phase change in sinusoids and phasors by myself, phasor input to LSI system by Dr. Meenakshi, periodic input to shift invariant systems by Dr. Prema. Now,
very
just now, Ms. Pradhan has already explained about a sinusoid and its attributes. So we move forward to understanding the phase change in sinusoids and phasors. I have taken this entire content from Gadresa's lecture. So over here we consider the sinusoid in the phasor form as a e raised to j omega t plus 5, and then we split this a e raised to j omega t. We make a small phase change of del phi over here in the phasor, and we split this expression as e raised to j omega t plus phi into e raised to j del phi. Now, if you see the change of phase over here is reflected as a multiplying factor, and this multiplying factor represents an anticlockwise rotation. Similarly, if we consider the complex conjugate phasor, it is taken as a e raised to minus j omega t plus phi, wherein now it is we are making an incremental change in phi as phi plus del phi, and we split this expression again as e raised to minus j omega t plus phi into e raised to minus j del phi, which is a complex conjugate of the previous constant. So in the first case, we consider it as a constant. The second case, it is a complex conjugate. So in the first case, it is, as we have already seen, it's an anti-clockwise rotation. So in the second phase, it is going to be a clockwise rotation. So the change by a small incremental phase del phi in the sinusoid results in a multiplying factor. And this factor, you can say, is we need to consider only one phasor constant, whereas we don't need to worry about the other one since it is rotating in the opposite direction itself. So the significance of complex signals and constant is that a change of phase in a sinusoid is reflected by a multiplying factor, the first thing. Second thing, even if we look at it as two phasors, we need to understand that we are taking care of only one phasor, because the effect of change in the other direction is implicitly understood since the other one is a conjugate. Now, over here, I would like to give an example of a phase change as music. So, I would like to say over here that suppose if I have a singer who is saying four notes or singing four notes, sa, re, ga, ma. And in the background, I want a guitar to also play the same four notes as sa, re, ga, ma. So in music, you have to take care that the phase change should be less than 90 degrees. Obviously, because if it becomes 90 degrees or more than that, then these two will cancel out and it appears as a hollow in sound. Now, with due permission of Gadre sir, can I play a video over here to?
yes, yes, most welcome. You'll have to, change. I think like
Yes, sir.
you know our Sushant advised Professor Nandita. Similarly, you'll have to change your way of presenting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just need a minute. So, sir, this was one example I thought of sharing with everyone
Yes, yes,
of phase change. So
yes.
now I would again go back to my
So,
presentation. Please
yes, you
give me
can,
a moment.
why don't you explain what is the technical
Okay,
idea conveyed
sir,
here? Yeah,
actually over here, what happens is, like
yes,
supposing if there are, as you could see in the video, there
yes,
were two drums.
yes,
Now, two mics were placed on the drum. So when these two mics are placed, you have to take care that the two mics are placed at the same height, length,
yes,
and phase. So
correct.
when the placement is correct, you will be able to hear the proper sound of the drum as it is
Yes,
desired, and a little bit of I mean, you can say the alignment of it changes, it will
yes,
completely give the music offbeat. So this
correct.
is the significance of phase change in the world of
Very
music.
good, very good. In fact, this is a
Thank you,
very
sir.
beautiful illustration because this illustrates the importance of phase. Very nice, very good.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now with this I would hand over the session to Dr. Minakshi, and just give me a minute, Dr. Minakshi, I'll quickly take the presentation for you. Thank you
Okay,
everyone.
thank you. Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Thank you, Manisha ma'am. This is the summary slide that I have taken from Dr. Gadresa's lecture. So this is I'm not going to discuss in detail, but just to understand the importance of giving phasor input to the LSI system. Just have a look at this equation. So when we give the phasor to the linear shift invariant system, what we get is nothing but the frequency response h of omega multiplied by the e raised to j omega t as it is. So it's like the phasor that we have fed into the system, it's coming out of the same system multiplied by this h of omega. So next slide please, Manisha ma'am. So when we talk about the phasor given to LSI system, the schematic representation shows us this A into e raised to j omega t plus theta will be coming out of the system with this h of omega. So whatever we have given as an input, it is coming out as it is. So further, we will be calling this as an eigenfunction, which is coming out of this system. So phasor is very important because it's the shorthand representation of the signal that is basically sinusoidal in time. So we can represent the sinusoid with the help of this f of t function, which is a into cos omega t plus theta, and the same can be represented as capital F, which is nothing but the magnitude a and the phase given as theta. So sinusoidal signal represented in complex plane is nothing but the phasor. So phasor is in a way what we can say the Euler's identity. It's nothing but the form of the sinusoidal signal, and it's important to understand the complex nature of the signal, and that's why it's important. So this is basically extended further with the help of the sinusoidal that is periodic in nature, which will be applied to a system. So that further part will be explained by Prema ma'am. With Prema ma'am to continue after this session.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Meenakshi. I would like to take over from where Meenakshi stopped. So one very important point, what we can understand from the previous lectures is that when we apply a phasor or a sinusoidal signal to a linear shift invariant system, the output is going to be another phasor or another sinusoidal of different magnitude but the same frequency. So, and a shift. So this is very important. So when you are passing a sinusoidal signal through an LSI system, what you are getting is another sinusoidal of same frequency with a change in magnitude and a change in phase. So this property is very important. Now let us see, instead of one phasor, one phasor is just a cos omega t plus phi. We are going to apply two phasors which are rotating in anti-clockwise to opposite direction. So you can represent it as 2a cos omega t plus phi. So in the LSI system, what is there in the figure, we are giving an input of 2a cos omega t plus phi. So this represents two different phases of same frequency, but rotating in opposite direction. So the output what we are getting has two components in it. One has one is a phasor with a magnitude of h omega plus a. Sorry, h of omega. That means the output will be having two components. First magnitude is mod h omega a e power j omega t plus phi plus angle of h omega, plus you can see that the second phasor is just in the opposite direction. That means we are just changing the sign of omega. So this will become h minus omega into a e power minus j omega t plus phi plus magnitude of h omega. So as I have shown here, you can see that these two are two complex conjugates. So what we can make out here is, and finally what we get is, we have a signal with 2 times the amplitude multiplied by h omega, cosine of omega t plus phi plus the phase change. So this is very important to know that if you are passing two phasors of same frequency rotating in opposite direction, then what output we are getting is of the same phasor, same two phasors with a different. Manisha, can you go back to the previous slide? Yeah, same phasor with a change in amplitude and a change in phase. So this is very important. So because of this, it is very easy to analyze phasors through LSI systems. Now let us look into the situation where we are applying a sum of two sine waves of different frequencies. So far we were talking about two waveforms of same frequency. Now let us talk of, yeah, you can go to the next slide, Manisha. Yeah, let us talk of, no, previous slide. Yeah, here. Two phasors or two waveforms of different frequency. So you can see here, I've written 2a1 cosine of omega 1 t plus phi 1 and 2a cosine of omega 2 plus phi 2. The combination of this will be the input to the LSI system. So here you can see that the amplitude of the two waveforms are different. One has an amplitude of 2a1, the other one has an amplitude of 2a2, and the frequencies are different. That is, the first waveform has a frequency of omega 1 and second has a frequency of omega 2. Even the phase is different, phi 1 and phi 2. So we are applying two waveforms to the LSI system. Combination of two waveforms to the LSI system whose magnitudes are different, frequencies are different, and phases are different. Now, if you evaluate the convolution of this with the impulse response of the LSI system h of t, what we will be getting are two waveforms or two phasors. The first one magnitude will be 2a1 h omega 1 cosine omega 1 t plus phi. So what can you observe from this first expression is there is a change in magnitude. The frequency of this will be the same as the frequency of the first input with a change in phase. And the second waveform will have a different magnitude, but the frequency is same as the second input with a change in sign. So this is very important. The important point here is, if you are applying, instead of two sine waves of different frequency, if I apply three sine waves of different frequency, what I am going to get is a sum of three sine waves of different same frequencies as the inputs, but different in magnitude and different in phase. Similarly, if I apply 10 sinusoidal, I will get a sum of 10 sinusoidal. So here, you can arrive at a very important point that if you have an input, arbitrary input, if you can decompose into different sinusoidal components for any arbitrary input, there is a linear combination of sinusoids with the similar frequencies as input frequency. So the analysis will become very simple if you decompose any arbitrary input into a combination of sine waves. So this is very obvious in the case of Fourier series. So we have seen Fourier series earlier. We know Fourier series. Fourier series is basically splitting any arbitrary input into, or decompose any arbitrary input into sum of various sine waves of different frequencies. Now, if you apply that to an LSI system, we know we can predict the output. What could be the output? Different frequency, different waveforms of change in amplitude and change in phase, but same in frequency. So Fourier series is one important thing. So here we are coming to a paradigm shift. All this time we are talking about only time domain signals. Now we are slowly coming to frequency domain signals through sinusoid. So the advantage of this is that it is very easy to predict the output and the analysis becomes very simple. So here the paradigm shift, you can go to the next slide, Anisha. Yes, here this is the paradigm shift from time to frequency. See here I have shown the figure of a chair in 3 different viewpoints. So this is the very same what we are going from time to frequency. So if you are having a system in time domain, you view in a different way, but frequency domain, the same chair you can view in front view, side view, or a angular view. So the same chair in different views. In a similar way, the same signal or the same input we can view in different ways, either in time domain or in frequency domain. The advantage of frequency domain is that if you split or decompose into various sine waves of different frequencies, you can predict the output of an LSI system for that particular input. So here we are, you can easily do the decomposition using a Fourier series. But the problem here is that most of our inputs, real-time inputs, are not periodic. The Fourier series can be applied only to periodic inputs. So what do we do with signals or inputs which are not periodic? Here comes the importance of Fourier transform. I think the next speaker, next group is going to present Fourier transform. So I am concluding here. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice, very well done. Again, I think we must really appreciate how group 2 in all the 3 cycles has beautifully coordinated. In fact, this is something that we have to learn from group 2, how different faculty members, even across at different points in the country, can come together and coordinate so well. You know, and this can be also a way of, this is also something that can be appreciated by faculty in an institution who are teaching a course together, or who are managing different parts of a course, or or teaching different sections. Is something that we must learn from them, and very beautifully illustrated with different kinds of examples. Beyond what was just delivered in my own lecture, they took their own examples. It was very good indeed. Very nice.
Sir, I wanted to say something actually.
Yes, yes.
We all 3 actually, Meenakshi, me and Prema ma'am, were not so happy with our presentation because we had simply written the notes and scanned it and put on the PPT. And this was something which was not acceptable to us. So we were not actually so happy with our presentation.
Yeah, but that's okay. But in the short, you see, you had very little time. So in fact,
yes,
in the short time, you've been able to put it together.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your
if you've come so far, then you can do even better as you get more time. So you can, in fact, the whole, in fact, what we should learn from group 2 is the whole purpose of this workshop. You see, in this workshop, this association should continue beyond. As I said, this workshop is a beginning, not an end.
Yes,
it's meant to be a beginning, not an end. This association that you develop through the workshop should set you off on a journey towards building your signal system delivery and so on, not come to an end with the workshop.
Yes, sir. What you told is very correct. We have a WhatsApp group now, and maybe late night yesterday till 11:30 we were chatting through that WhatsApp group on what to discuss and what to present.
Yes.
So we have become very good friends now, and I think we will continue this throughout.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And even the presentation. Yes, sir.
Yes.
And even the presentation was not practiced a single time before this.
Yes.
So we were just going on adding these slides, and accordingly we just wrote the names, whichever topic we want, we used to write the names, and then we started the presentation.
No, very good. I think it's very well done. And this is something that we should learn from group 2, and all groups should similarly build an association and carry the association beyond this workshop. So among the, just out of curiosity, among the 4 of you, 3 of you, how many of you are continuing into the second workshop?
Sir, to be very honest, we have actually, I have not enrolled.
Okay.
But
I am planning to continue.
Sir. Yes, sir, we are hoping to continue.
Yes.
Oh, very good.
I have an exam on Sunday, sir, so I'm not sure, but I will try to join, sir.
That's fine. That's okay. Yeah, that's all right.
Thank you, sir.
Let's be good. Now, so you see, now what is very important here, a couple of points I want to stress from their presentation. One is the self-replication property of the sinusoid. They brought it out very beautifully, the self, and why, the phasor, they also brought out very beautifully why the phasor is a better way of dealing with the sinusoid. The phasor and the self-replicating property. And this is something that we should bring out to our students when we present it. Yes. Any other comments on the presentation from the participants? Okay, if there are none, we shall then go to group 3.
Hello, Narayan Marathe here. Hello.
So who's making the presentation for group 3?
Narayan Marathe.
Oh, very good. Yeah, hello.
I already shared the screen.
Yes, yes.
My predecessor somehow might have telepathically understood that I am going to talk on Fourier on transform.
Yes.
The thing was signals and vectors, but I thought that with presumption of the Professor Gadre's permission, I thought that this transform is something which I wanted to share some new theme.
Yes, very good.
In fact, what we I could not type it because it needed some integrations and all that. So I had it in the notes and I'm sharing it. In fact, the Fourier transform when it is introduced with e raised to j omega t. And as it is introduced with e raised to minus j omega t, it creates something like what we can say some inhibition. And immediately the people are not able to understand the significance of e raised to minus j omega t. So I thought whether we can have something else in the presentation, and that is the transform is defined as a mapping of dependent variable to independent variable is entirely needs to be taken at once. So what is required is when t is time domain and ft is its function, then when we transform it, this point number 2 is the most important part of the transform. No trace of point-to-point mapping for separately should be seen in direct form in the transform domain entity. So one way is a totalizer transform, that is integration. So if I say S, that is the name S I have given as was sum, as integration of ft dt over entire t minus infinity to infinity, in that case it will be total area under the curve of that function. It is also a transform, totalizer transform, but the problem is that it is not invertible because the multiple f1 f1t, f2t, up to fnt can lead to same S. Multiple functions can have same area under the curve, and it is not invertible because of many to one mapping. Now, to attempt to make it invertible, what we can do is instead of a plain total, we can have a weighted total, where we say that the sum, it is weighted sum now. It should have been given subscript W, but I just forgot to write that. It is summation of ft multiplied by gt, which is gt is a weight curve, dt, and integrate over the entire time. In that case, it will be S. Then what will happen is the function gt itself will determine different totals, weighted totals. That is, for a function g1t, there will be some s1. For function g2t, there will be some s2. Depending upon, and if now we know s and we know function gt, say g1t, that is from s1 and g1t here, not gt, g1t, it is likely that if we have chosen d1, g1t appropriately, then that it is invertible. Now, to make it more generic, what we can do is we can have to make it more generic, we can have it as instead of g1t, g2t, we can define it as a g bracket omega comma t as a joint function. If we define the joint function, it is a joint continuous function where omega and t for finding transformation, and when we integrate, omega acts as a parameter. So we can say S omega as ft g omega comma t dt, and in that case what we get is we get S omega as a function of, or we can name S omega as f omega. So here the important point which is stressed is that ft g omega comma t. Now, to make the things workable, what kind of j omega t we should have. And here I try to introduce Fourier transform as a joint or a combination ordered pair of cosine and sine transforms. If I take g omega comma t as cos omega t, then I define cosine transform as ft cos omega t dt integral over entire time, provided if it exists. Then in that case, this cosine transform, is it invertible? Then the answer is partly yes. Means multiple f1t's will not, multiple ft's will not lead to same fc omega. But only thing is that if ft is a transform to fc omega, then f of minus t, that is if f2t is equal to f1 of minus t, then both will have same fc omega because cos is an even function. Therefore, cosine transform itself is not invertible. It is not many to one transformation. It is 2 to 1 transformation. But as it is 2 to 1 transformation, it is not invertible because it leads to two possibilities. Therefore, if we also take help of sine transform, that is g omega comma t as sine omega t, in that case fs omega is ft sine omega t dt integrated over entire time. In that case, sine transform is also image invertible in a complementary manner. That is, if ft is having the transform as fs omega, minus of f of minus t will also have same fs omega because sine is an odd function. And therefore now, if we take fc omega and fs omega together, then they together means ft uniquely gets transformed to fc omega and fs omega, and f omega is a way of writing the ordered pair as fc omega minus j omega s, or we can say it to be ft e raised to minus j omega t dt. And in that case, it will be only one because ft can have same f, only one ft will have fc omega and fs omega as same. F of minus t will have same fc omega but different fs omega, and minus of f of minus t will have same fs omega and different fc omega. So to make students aware of Fourier transform, I think the way with which we should proceed should be, we should introduce the concept of transform, the weight, that is the integration of ft into gt dt, that gt is a function of omega as well. So g omega comma t, then g omega comma t function we should take such like as cos omega t, sin omega t, where we can visualize the integration and then we can correlate it, combine them, and then say e raised to minus j omega t. Because if we directly go with the mathematical abstraction of ft e raised to minus j omega t dt, in that case, what is meaning of that ft e raised to minus j omega t is not immediately clear for the student at the somewhat we can say at that junior stage where because the subject is now in the second year. So I think this is something which I try in my class and I wanted to share it because it's a pedagogical workshop. Thank you, sir.
Very nice, very beautiful, very nice. I think we must congratulate Professor Marathe because I can see that, you know, he has actually given a beautiful interpretation based on his experience to the lecture. You know, and one, let me stress on some very important points which he brought out. One is that the cosine or the sine integral by themselves are not enough because they are not quite a many to one, but they do have some ambiguity in their transformation. The cosine brings ambiguity because of the even nature and the sine brings ambiguity because of the odd nature. So Professor Marathe very beautifully brought out how taking them together gives you the potential to deal with a more general class of functions. So, you know, this is a beautiful way. In fact, I'm very happy to see this approach, which could be used, in fact, to explain why you should be doing e raised to the power j omega t at some level. You see, so yeah, I think there's a message from Professor Sakre that she's supposed to leave the campus. Yeah, we can have your presentation tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, so like we can have tomorrow in the afternoon session, we can have your presentation. So we'll have group 6 after this. So anyway, so group 4. So now you see, one very important thing which Professor Marathi brought out is the whole idea of the transform being seen as multiple kernels interacting with the function, and invertibility. He also brought out very beautifully the importance of invertibility. So very nice. So thank you. Any other comments on his presentation? All right. So very well done, Professor Marathi. Now I invite. Now I am very happy to see that in each of the groups so far, group 1, group 2, group 3, and I believe now it will come to group 4. Different members are participating. So it's very good to see that more than one member is coming forward and participating. And the whole idea of this workshop is this. As I said, it's a beginning. So your association should build beyond this workshop. That's very important. So now with group 4 then, group 4.
Sir, can we have in tomorrow morning, please? For group 4?
It's not tomorrow morning, it will be tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Because
okay.
I think you know the schedule tomorrow, right? So, tomorrow we are leaving. I'll mention that tomorrow the whole of the morning is left for you to set a question paper and discuss it.
Okay,
yeah? So
sir.
I'll mention
okay.
that. Yeah, so we have 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to have it tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Group
Please.
5. So which is the next group which is ready then? Group 6, are you ready? Very good. So let's have group 6 then. Well, actually, a lot of people are requesting for tomorrow. The thing is, tomorrow we'll otherwise have too much of crowd in the presentations.
Yeah, Krishna.
So
Can
I
you
would
hear me?
prefer to have some presentations now, at least 1 or 2.
He's having a problem, I think, Krishna.
Okay. Okay, so while you sort it out, is group 7 ready then?
Sir, I have just given presentation.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm
I know you have just given. I know you are, and your group is not cooperating. That's really sad. Yes. Okay, so.
Okay, sir. Sir, I can actually proceed further just to have.
Yeah, yes.
It is related to the Fourier transform.
Yes.
Actually, I want to show one particular video for this because
Yes.
it is very well explained in that video. And whatever the mathematical stuff is there, that actually the Krishna is going to present that. But the students should understand exactly the meaning of this Fourier transform. That is very important, because actually what is the significance of this, physical significance of this, and why we are doing this frequency domain analysis. That is very important, because when we are going from time domain to frequency domain, it is first is what for the simplification, and the second is like the practical approach of this is like when I want to have some application on this. So what are the important frequency component which are present in the signal that should be understood.
Correct.
That should be understood, and based upon that, actually one has to take the decision of whether you have to, that signal has to be eliminated or signal has to be taken based upon its the amplitude version and power version of that particular signal. So that is very important as far as in frequency domain conversion is considered. And the second is like why we do frequency conversion is just to simplify the system, because it is very difficult. It is not impossible, it is difficult and complex in case of the time domain analysis. So we go into the frequency domain and we convert that and again invert back to our time domain analysis. So that is that actually the transformation is there, but that our actually the Fourier transform is lecture number 24. That is what our that has to be presented. I will just share you that particular video for, and that is a good you know. So is it audible?
Yes. No, it's not audible. I think
it's not audible. 1 minute.
I think you may have to share your full screen.
No, there is no setting there. It has to be with the system volume only.
Yeah, yeah.
Just play
Yeah,
it for a
Yeah.
good
few
evening,
minutes.
sir. Shall I start my presentation in case it is
Oh,
not?
okay. He has brought the
Okay,
Krishna. You brought the
Krishna.
presentation.
Yeah, yeah. I the presentation. There is a technical issue at my end, so network is not stable, so I could not stay long.
Okay, now you can. Can you?
Yeah, okay. I will start my presentation maybe. So this is a cycle 3, and this is a third presentation of our group. And already, so our topic for demonstration is Fourier transform, which is lecture 24 of SARS lecture in the group 7. And so, so before entering into Fourier transform, so we should explain to the students so why we are moving from the time domain to the frequency domain. So there are so here the analyzing the system and signals in the two domains here. One is in the time domain or spatial domain, and second one is the frequency domain. So we should clearly explain to the students so why we are moving to the frequency domain here. So as I am speaking on the microphone, so if you see the time domain, see in the overall time domain, it will give the various sounds, maybe various modulation or overall the with it instantly it gives the magnitude of my voice. So at particular frequency or maybe at particular band of frequency, so the spectrum of my voice between the 20 to 20 kilohertz if we want to know. So we need to go for the spectrum analysis or frequency domain analysis. Like certain applications, we need some band of frequencies, and we need to remove other band of frequencies. Then we need to go for frequency domain analysis. Maybe we not to analyze various images. We need to go for some kind of transforms. Maybe wavelet transform, maybe the fast Fourier transforms. So basically, we need to convert from time domain to frequency domain. Apart from these applications, maybe mathematically there are some easiness in the frequency domain. As we have seen, the some complex calculations and in the previous demonstrations regarding convolution, the time domain convolution, like the example we have seen in the train example, the platform train. There are various cases T1, T2, and T3 to explain the convolution in the time domain. There is a shifting and also there is a reversing and a multiplication and adding all this together, so which makes the students little which is complex for the students to do all these calculations. So the beauty of this frequency domain representation of the signal or system is that which makes the calculations are easy. So when the convolution which is in the time domain, if it comes into the frequency domain, it becomes multiplication. So which maybe in the last, again they can take the inverse Fourier transform, maybe they can get back to their original signal over there. So like maybe this is a stepping stone for Laplace transform, maybe the Fourier transform, which is they like in the way with the Laplace transform, which is used in the control systems, maybe various electrical networks to analyze various RC first order system and second order systems and various to solve the linear differential equations. So another advantage is that whatever the linear differential equations in the mathematics, that will be converted into the algebraic form in the frequency domain by using this frequency domain techniques. So this is a one kind of intuition or maybe one kind of uh, introduction we can give it to the my students. So before moving into the frequency domain, apart from the applications, how mathematically it is easy for them to solve in the calculation like differential equations or maybe any kind of convolution problems. Maybe in kind of as so many are explained in case of the tabular form is there, it is easy for them to calculate convolution. But if they want to calculate individually y of 0, y of 1, y of 2, by using the summation, it may take some very large time in the discrete domain. Like in the convolution domain also, they need to calculate the x1 of tau and x2 of t minus tau, and they need to find out the integration, or maybe in case of discrete is the sum. So these are kind of understanding I have from SAR's lecture that sir has two lectures they have given, one lecture 23 on Fourier series and lecture 24 is given on the Fourier transform. So one is the representing the discrete exponentials in the form of sine and cosine signals in the Fourier series. So there's a periodic signal is there, which can be represented as the sinusoidal and cosine. So there is a discrete frequencies, the harmonics of the first fundamental frequency, maybe omega naught, 2 omega naught, 3 omega naught. So at the discrete frequencies, we have the spectrum of the magnitude of that signals. But if we want the continuous spectrum, maybe minus infinity to infinity, maybe we need to go for, in that cases, we need to go for like Fourier transform. So while seeing this Fourier series and Fourier transform both, so there are certain limitations are there for Fourier series. So there is like a Dirichlet conditions. So the existence or maybe the sub necessary condition for Fourier series to be existed. So if we calculate the Fourier series for the entire period, entire for periodic signal, entire minus infinity to infinity. Periodic signal means it has the infinite signal. So we'll get, it will not be converged. So we'll get the infinity value. So that's why we are taking, we're calculating the Fourier series for the one period. And also the conditions also we are giving over the period. So over a period, we are expecting that signal should have the finite minimum and maximum values. So that means it should not have the minimum and maximum in the period, maybe 3 or 4 or 5. We need, mathematically it is very difficult to calculate Fourier series for such signals. And also finite discontinuous the values. So the amount of discontinuous also very less in the over a period. And also over a period that signal should be absolutely integrable, or maybe that means it should be less than infinity. We should get some bounded value. It should not reach to the infinite value. And like the same conditions, if you come to the or Fourier transform case, it will be finite duration signal. It is not a one period. So here, so periodic signal becomes a periodic signal in the Fourier transform. So in case of aperiodic signal, it is a little difficult to apply our Fourier series, because the Fourier series is to decompose the signal into the sinusoidals and cosine signals, the harmonics. But Fourier transform, which is representing the exponentials. So now, so I have seen the SAR's lecture, maybe SAR has explained with reference to the vectors, maybe the rotating vectors R and E for j omega t and each and every vector. Maybe to be honest, maybe I spent a couple of hours to understand those analogy. Maybe it needs some more practice to understand that the rotating vectors and also the inverse Laplace transform, deducting the inverse Laplace transform, the vector space v1 and v2. So as I am starter in this course, maybe I need to spend a couple of some more time to understand that analogy. So as far as my understanding or maybe my knowledge, so the Fourier series and Fourier transform. So Fourier series is applicable for periodic functions, and the non-periodic functions is completely not applicable here. And so the discrete exponential into sine and cosine functions. Whereas Fourier transform, which is periodic function, it converts its Fourier series into the frequency domain. It can be applied for the periodic functions also, non-periodic functions. So it is converts into the continuous frequency domains. So like the time domain and the frequency domain. For example, if you want to understand how this one domain to another domain, maybe we can take some samples like frequency domain samples. Maybe in the x-axis we take the frequency 1 edge and 2 edge, and also in the y-axis we have taken the magnitude, and corresponding time representation we can take. So any arbitrary signal we can represent by using sinusoidal signals or the sinusoidal components. That's the Fourier has described that one. Maybe any finite duration signal can be represented by using sine and cosines. But I don't know why he is not represented by using square and triangular. Maybe as per my knowledge, if we give the sinusoidal signal to the LSI system, we'll get the sinusoidal signal only. But maybe if you give other triangular and square wave, maybe we may not get the same signals. Maybe SAR may explain this one better, if maybe in the end. So that is a represented. So this is Fourier transform and Fourier is the differences. And the definition, I directly, if you take the time domain representation of the signal x of t, so it can be defined as minus infinity to infinity x of t e to the power of minus j omega t. And in a similar way, the same as Sir told that the inverse also is possible for this. Then only it can say as a transform. So x of t can be transformed to x of omega. The inverse, maybe the x of omega, maybe it be refracted back to the x of t. We can get the x of t from the x of inverse Laplace, inverse Fourier transform. So these are two definitions we have here, and these are conditions, the existence for the Fourier transform, like the same, the finite interval. There, Fourier series we have the period, but here we have the finite interval, because the signal is not a periodic signal. We will take in one interval of time. So in that interval of time, the signal should be bounded. That means you should not get some random value. You should get some valid value or the valid number. It should be less than infinity. As one of our colleague told that the infinity means there are so many meanings are there, interferences. Maybe with reference to one person, it may be 10. If with reference to another person, it may be 20 or 30, or maybe that depends on the situation. The infinity value may change. So here, and the f of 2 should be absolutely integrable, means it should be less than infinity. So it should not reach to the infinity. So these are some conditions for our Fourier transform. And so we can derive the Fourier transform from our Fourier series, the periodic signal. So we can take as this the t is, we are taking infinite duration signal here, because here it is not periodic signal, we are taking the aperiodic signal. So x of t of t, and this is the representation of exponential Fourier series with reference to this one, minus infinity to infinity cn e to the power of j. As we know that this is the omega naught can be represented as 2 pi by t, the frequency. So 2t is the period of that waveform. But in this case, the t is the infinity. So then omega naught is 0. So that means we will get the only omega only. So in that way, we can derive the Fourier transform from our direct Fourier series also. So these are some examples for Fourier transform, how you can find Fourier transform of any signal. So here I am giving the two examples. First one is impulse. Maybe so far I am listening the lectures from today afternoon, and maybe morning also, impulse response and impulse systems. So impulse functions. So I want to give this example for Fourier transform. So here, as we know that the del of t is defined at t equivalent 0. Maybe the area of the impulse function is over the period, over the interval is 1 always, the del of t. So the del of t equivalent 1 for t equivalent 0, and in more general definition for 0 for t not equivalent to 0. So as for the definition of the Fourier transform, so the minus infinity to x of t e to the power minus j omega t. So here we have the x of t is the del of t. So if you substitute del of t here, so as we define the del of t at t equivalent 0 only, so the whole integral is existed the t equivalent 0 only. So we'll get the 1. So the Fourier transform of impulse function is 1. So that magnitude is 1, and there is no j term here, the imaginary term. So we can say the phase of the signal is the transform is 0. So for any frequency response, here we have the two parameters. One is magnitude, another one is phase. So whatever we are transforming the signal from time domain to frequency domain. So in case of, if you see best example, amplitude modulation signal, AM signal, there if you in the frequency domain there are two at omega equivalent to omega c and at omega equivalent to minus omega c, there are two spectral things are there. Maybe there is no phase information, so there is a two frequency components are there. According to that we have the magnitude also, maybe mvc by 2, some magnitude is there. So like any kind of the amplitude modulated signal, maybe frequency modulated signal. So we need to analyze some kind of spectrum of the signal. Maybe in case of, if you go to control systems, we will analyze the Bordeaux plots or the frequency response analysis of the systems. So like here, for any frequency response, if you see, there are two things are there, two important parameters. One is magnitude, another one is the phase, and this is the impulse. And another one is we have taken the exponential function, the one-sided, I can say the u of t, the right-sided signal, or maybe in other words, we can say this is a causal signal because it is defined after t equivalent 0 only. So here, so same, the exponential function we are e to the power of minus et into u of t, and u of t is defined for t greater than or equivalent 0, 1 unit step, as we know already, and for t less than 0, t 0. And if we calculate this integral, maybe it is simple mathematics. So here, e to the power of minus at into e to the power of minus j omega t, e to the power of minus of a plus j omega. As u of t, the limits will change here, because for u of t, the t greater than or equivalent 0 only, the u of t is defined. So the limits become 0 to infinity. So the integration for one is e to the power of minus a plus j omega into t by e to the minus a plus j omega. So if you substitute minus infinity here, e to the power of minus infinity, it becomes 0. And if we substitute minus of minus plus, it is the 1 by a plus j omega. So this is the our Fourier transform of exponential signal, one-sided exponential signal. So this I maybe maybe to be honest, maybe I may explain the SARS lecture. Maybe I am trying to understand that concept, like the orthogonal functions, and like how the each one represented with reference to vector space, geometrical representation of Fourier transform. Maybe by the end of this course, maybe I may communicate to the sir. Sorry for that. You may excuse me. So with this, may I conclude this presentation, and any comments may welcome.
I'll take 2 to 3 minutes. I sorted out the problem, and now actually I'll share the.
We're going to build to this video a certain animated approach to thinking about a super important idea from math, the Fourier transform. For anyone unfamiliar with what that is, my number one goal here is just for the video to be an introduction to that topic. But even for those of you who are already familiar with it, I still think that there's something fun and enriching about seeing what all of its components actually look like. The central example to start is going to be the classic one, decomposing frequencies from sound. But after that, I also really want to show a glimpse of how this idea extends well beyond sound and frequency into many seemingly disparate areas of math and even physics. Really, it is crazy just how ubiquitous this idea is. Let's dive in. This sound right here is a pure A, 440 beats per second, meaning if you were to measure the air pressure right next to your headphones or your speaker as a function of time, it would oscillate up and down around its usual equilibrium in this wave, making 440 oscillations each second. A lower pitch note, like a D, has the same structure, just fewer beats per second. And when both of them are played at once, what do you think the resulting pressure versus time graph looks like? Well, at any point in time, this pressure difference is going to be the sum of what it would be for each of those notes individually, which, let's face it, is kind of a complicated thing to think about. At some points, the peaks match up with each other, resulting in a really high pressure. At other points, they tend to cancel out. And all in all, what you get is a wave-ish pressure versus time graph that is not a pure sine wave. It's something more complicated. And as you add in other notes, the wave gets more and more complicated. But right now, all it is a combination of 4 pure frequencies. So it seems needlessly complicated given the low amount of information put into it. A microphone recording any sound just picks up on the air pressure at many different points in time. It only sees the final sum. So our central question is going to be how you can take a signal like this and decompose it into the pure frequencies that make it up. Pretty interesting, right? Adding up those signals really mixes them all together. So pulling them back apart feels akin to unmixing multiple paint colors that have all been stirred up together. The general strategy is going to be to build for ourselves a mathematical machine that treats signals with a given frequency differently from how it treats other signals. To start, consider simply taking a pure signal, say with a lowly 3 beats per second, so that we can plot it easily. And let's limit ourselves to looking at a finite portion of this graph. In this case, the portion between 0 seconds and 4.5 seconds. The key idea is going to be to take this graph and sort of wrap it up around a circle. Concretely, here's what I mean by that. Imagine a little rotating vector where at each point in time, its length is equal to the height of our graph for that time. So high points of the graph correspond to a greater distance from the origin, and low points end up closer to the origin. And right now, I'm drawing it in such a way that moving forward 2 seconds in time corresponds to a single rotation around the circle. Our little vector drawing this wound-up graph is rotating at half a cycle per second. So this is important. There are 2 different frequencies at play here. There's the frequency of our signal, which goes up and down 3 times per second. And then, separately, there's the frequency with which we're wrapping the graph around the circle, which at the moment is half of a rotation per second. But we can adjust that second frequency however we want. Maybe we want to wrap it around faster, or maybe we go and wrap it around slower. And that choice of winding frequency determines what the wound-up graph looks like. Some of the diagrams that come out of this can be pretty complicated, although they are very pretty. But it's important to keep in mind that all that's happening here is that we're wrapping the signal around a circle. The vertical lines that I'm drawing up top, by the way, are just a way to keep track of the distance on the original graph that corresponds to a full. And at this point, we might have some sort of vague sense that something special will happen when the winding frequency matches the frequency of our signal, 3 beats per second. All of the high points on the graph happen on the right side of the circle, and all of the low points happen on the left. But how precisely can we take advantage of that in our attempt to build a frequency unmixing machine? Well, imagine this graph as having some kind of mass to it, like a metal wire. This little dot is going to represent the center of mass of that wire. As we change the frequency and the graph winds up differently, that center of mass kind of wobbles around a bit. And for most of the winding frequencies, the peaks and the valleys are all spaced out around the circle in such a way that the center of mass stays pretty close to the origin. But when the winding frequency is the same as the frequency of our signal, in this case 3 cycles per second, all of the peaks are on the right and all of the valleys are on the left, so the center of mass is unusually far to the right. Here, to capture this, let's draw some kind of plot that keeps track of where that center of mass is for each winding frequency. Of course, the center of mass is a 2-dimensional thing. It requires 2 coordinates to fully keep track of. But for the moment, let's only keep track of the x-coordinate. So for a frequency of 0, when everything is bunched up on the right, this x-coordinate is relatively high. And then as you increase that winding frequency, and the graph balances out around the circle, the x-coordinate of that center of mass goes closer to 0, and it just kind of wobbles around a bit. But then, at 3 beats per second, there's a spike, as everything lines up to the right. This right here is the central construct. So let's sum up what we have so far. We have that original intensity versus time graph. And then we have the winding frequency influences the center of mass around 0 in our new frequency plot. Just correspond as we play around with various winding frequencies. This plot of the winding frequency versus center of mass would only have a spike at the value of. Our main focus, as far as frequency decomposition is concerned, is already you might be able to see how this machine lets us pick up the frequency of a signal. Winding frequencies, and as you do that, keep track of where the center of mass 2 cycles per second. But the real key point, the thing that makes this machine so delightful, is how it enables us to take a signal consisting of multiple frequencies and pick out what they are. Imagine taking the two signals we just looked at, the wave with 3 beats per second and the wave with 2 beats per second, and add them up. Like I said earlier, what you get is no longer a nice pure cosine wave, it's something a little more complicated. But imagine throwing this into our winding frequency machine. It is certainly the case that as you wrap this thing around, it looks a lot more complicated. You have this chaos and chaos and chaos and chaos, and then whoop, things seem to line up really nicely at 2 cycles per second. Then as you continue on, it's more chaos and more chaos, more chaos, 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 chaos. Whoop! Things nicely align again at 3 cycles per second. And like I said before, the wound-up graph can look kind of busy and complicated, but all it is the relatively simple idea of wrapping the graph around a circle.
So many,
it's
sir.
just a more complicated graph and a pretty quick
Yes, sir.
winding frequency.
Yeah, I think we can conclude.
Now what's going on here with the two?
Yeah, okay. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Yes,
I was
sir.
saying that we can conclude the video presentation now because people can see the video themselves.
Yeah, yeah. That I have shared the
And
link.
maybe, but one important thing when one is if one is making any presentation in the class, and if one is taking, and particularly in online, or if one is recording it, and if one has taken a video from some other source. Now here, of course, you have put the source in the chat.
Right.
You must always mention the source and the author. So can you do that now? Maybe you should check and mention the source and the author. Because we have to be very careful about copyright when we, so we have to give credit to the source and author because this is for educational purpose.
Yeah.
But still,
yeah.
so can you mention the source and author here?
I mentioned the link only, so
Yes.
I will mention that. I will
So who is
mention
the,
that.
is there a name of a person also there? Somewhere?
It is not. It is an actually the company which has been there. So just.
Okay. So anyway, I would recommend that, but the link, you mentioned the link, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 3 blue 1 brown. That company is there who has made this type
okay.
of a video. So that is what actually, and
Yeah.
why I have taken, because that is something which.
No, it's a very apt illustration. It's a very apt illustration, and in fact, it very beautifully brings out how you identify each component by synchronizing with that component.
Correct.
Isn't it? That is the idea. So it's a very beautiful illustration, and in fact, we could, so this is which is a company you said 3 blue 1 brown, is it?
3 blue 1 brown. 3 blue 1 brown.
So so it's a very apt illustration, but we must give credit to the source. That's very important.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is whenever I have to, because I have started that, and again the problem which is there. So for everybody, when actually I have sorted out that problem of playing video. So video has been seen but audio is not there. So in every this virtual platform there are different adjustments are there. But in case of this Google Meet, whenever we go in a present now, there are 3 options. That is your entire screen, a window, and a tab. So if you have the entire screen also, there is a sometimes problem if it is an audio video is there. So there is a third option which is called a tab.
Tab, okay.
A tab. If you actually go through that tab, so there the option is like whether audio has to be included in that.
Right.
So audio is included, and that's why. Otherwise, sometimes it goes like just in video and no audio.
Yes. Right.
So this is a feedback for that
Very
particular.
good. This helps other people also make a presentation. Very nice.
Yeah.
So very good. Now, it's a long session we've had. Now, tomorrow morning, all of you need to set a question paper based on this course. You all know that. So all of the morning is reserved. I know also that you will have your own, official classes or whatever engagements, exam duty. So I have kept the morning, free from this workshop tomorrow, because you must take out some time in the morning to set a question paper on this and set some assignments. And you will bring it in the afternoon when we meet at 2 p.m. So we'll be meeting at 2 p.m. in the afternoon tomorrow for the last session, for the concluding session. So we will be extending the timeline of all the graded activities up to this point. There is a 9th, up to 9, up to the 4th of December. So we'll be extending the timeline of all the graded activities up to the 4th of December, except the last one. The last one, the 10th one, that we shall keep for 2 p.m. tomorrow. That is setting the question paper and the assignments, right? So the 10th activity, the deadline is tomorrow 2 p.m. But all other activities we are extending up to 4th December. Is that fine?
Sir,
So,
each group, sir, sorry to
Sir,
interrupt.
yes.
Each group will prepare one question paper.
I think that is fine. Each group can prepare one question paper, but all of you can individually upload in your account.
Okay.
But you can discuss and together prepare a question paper. That is fine.
Sir, what is the full mark? There should be some
Pardon me?
marking
Yes,
or
yes.
assessment.
You can make the question paper for 20 marks.
Sir, what is the pattern, sir?
20
Is
marks.
it a completely
Yes.
objective question? Or,
Whatever. You do it as whatever you like.
Okay.
But we should be. So tomorrow, now, can I have some volunteer groups who will present a question paper tomorrow in the concluding session? So which groups will volunteer? Can I ask group 2 to volunteer because they finished the
sir, we can
presentation?
do that.
Very good. So I'll have group 2 present. Yes. And I think group 3 also.
Yes, sir.
Professor Marathi?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Surely. Yeah.
So I'll have a question paper and solution. You can show how you have framed a question paper and solution. So I'll have a presentation from group 1, as group 2 and group 3. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Total marks?
So each of you, so 20 marks.
Okay.
A question paper for 20 marks based on the syllabus of the course. And also any other assignments that you would be giving your students, you can frame them. So I will request each of you to make a presentation tomorrow, about the question paper that you frame for 20 marks with questions and solution, and also the assignments that you would give to your students when you're teaching this part of the course. Yeah, so group 2 and group 3. Is that fine?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So we will prepare question paper along with the solution and upload it.
Yes.
All the other groups? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you don't solve it, we don't know if suppose you made a mistake or something in the question.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, so each, in fact, in principle, everybody should individually prepare it, but you can discuss in your group and have a common question paper and solution. I don't mind. But then, some groups are like Professor Nandita Sanyal, she has to do it all by herself. So Professor Nandita, you can combine with some other group if you know some other people, because you're all alone.
Yes. That will be better.
Yes. So any volunteer group who would like to absorb Professor Nandita Sanyal in their group? I think I can request Professor, the first group number 1 to absorb.
Yes, sir.
I think group 1 can absorb her. Yes, so Professor Nandita, you can be absorbed in group 1.
Please share your number here so that we can contact you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you.
Professor Nandita has worked very hard, and she should get a chance to discuss with others.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So then, put your number over here in the chat. I will call you.
Yes, I have given my number.
Yeah, thank you. I will not.
So then I will request request all the three groups, group 1, 2, and 3, yeah, to prepare a question paper and some assignments. Is that fine?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Modify group 1 now. Also.
Now the group activity 9 is on the presentation of 7 and 8, which we haven't done.
That's right. So that we'll also do tomorrow. So tomorrow we shall be having this interactive session at 2 p.m. and that will also be the concluding session. Is that right? And the deadline for this last graded activity still remains at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Is that right?
Sir, can we resubmit the graded activities because the deadlines have been extended? So can we the latest file would be taken then for
the latest
evaluation?
file will be taken. Yes, the latest file will be taken.
Okay, sir.
So all the graded activities up to graded activity 9 will be extending up to 4th December. And the last graded activity 10, however, we shall keep for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So we'll meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. and you get the whole morning because you need to talk to one another. You also need to attend to your office duties because it's a working day tomorrow. But we'll meet at 2 p.m. and we'll have a concluding session. So I look forward to meeting all of you at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Is that right? And we'll have group 1, 2, and 3 make a presentation of their question paper and solution and assignments. Yes, is that fine? Group 1, anybody, any representative?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so group 1, you're ready to do this, right?
I didn't get you. Can you repeat it?
I said group 1, 2, and 3 will present their question paper and assignments tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and group 2?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and group 3?
Yes, sir. Marathi. Yes,
very nice. So we'll have 3 groups which are going to talk about their question paper and assignments, and the remaining presentations of the 3rd cycle also, as many of them as possible, we will do. And then we'll conclude the workshop tomorrow afternoon. So we'll have the concluding session with all this and the valedictory at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Yes, we'll meet you all at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So use the morning to complete this. Thank you so much. Up to 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.